good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Elevate. I'm your host, Justin Caraway, and today I have some very special guests, some very special brothers of mine. If I'm very honored and privileged to call these guys a brother. Um, One thing about it is, when you meet good, genuine people, when you meet good people in your life that are doing things that are positive or doing things that are good, you tend to want to hold on to those people. And there's no other two people that I can think of that are more positive role models and influencers in my life than my two guests today. So, with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring them in and let them do their own intros. Let them tell you a little bit about themselves, a little bit of background, as well as what they have going on and what they have going in the near future. So, without any further ado, let me go ahead and bring my guests in.
Stop!
What's up? What's up?
So, we have my brother, Mr. Dominique Williams, and my brother, Mr. Trent Roberts.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks
without
for
any
having
further
us.
ado, yes, sir. Thank you guys for joining. I really do appreciate it. I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my other brother in the comments, Gino. How you doing, man? I'm glad that the power's back on and hoping that you and your family are safe and keep it pushing out there in Cattle Mills, man. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and give the people what they came here for. Mr. Trenton, we'll start with you with your intro, just to let the people know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, greatly appreciate it, Justin. Thanks for having me on. I've been friends with you, with Dominic, a bunch of us just growing up in Garland, and I mean that's really the connection there. Obviously, I went to Garland High School. You guys went to South, so we're enemies in that sense. But otherwise, we've been friends ever since we were little kids. So that's really what brings me on the show is just our personal connection. But then I'm an attorney by trade, but I do a lot of basketball coaching as well. So I have a ton of kids. I have 7 kids myself. So I coach basically 5 basketball teams, or in some way involved in coaching 5 basketball teams. Just for me, any chance I get to do that, it's fun. I mean, we did it growing up. My dad obviously coached our AAU team, the Garland Wildcats, growing up. And, it wasn't until later in life that I really realized what a big impact he had on all of us through coaching. Obviously, he had a big impact on me as my dad, but, just everybody, all of our friends, had a ton of fun playing on that team, learned a lot, and kind of just all stuck together long term in a sense. So whenever I had kids, that was the first thing I wanted to do. I want to coach them in some way. I thought they would all be soccer players, but of course they like what you like, So if you're not sitting there watching soccer, I thought, oh, they're going to be a bunch of little Lionel Messi's, like, oh, that's their best shot of But they like basketball, because that's what's on in our house. And so started playing, practicing with them all the time, and then eventually led to me working with Dominic and with you, Justin, with a number of other guys that we know growing up to found Dallas Basketball Coalition, DBC. So it's an organization that is just a lot of fun. We're able to get out there, get together, teach the kids. We have a couple sponsors to where the kids are able to play for free. And it's really competitive basketball. It's not rec basketball. It's really competitive. They're getting a lot better. And so it's just been a blast. So I think that all of that kind of full circle is what brings me on here, and, just excited for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Without any further ado, let me go ahead and give my good brother Dominique in.
Yeah, my name's Dominique Williams. Been playing basketball or played since I was 5. Finally starting to get into coaching a little bit thanks to Trent. This is what it is. This is my life. Every now and then I wear this shirt that says basketball saved my life, and I live by that. Now that my son's old enough, me and Trent got kids that are the same age. We got to trying to get them to understand the game the right way and bring in our old school ways and the new school ways of basketball. And thanks to Justin Caraway bringing us out for this.
Thank you guys for joining once again. Really do appreciate it. So let's go back to DBC, which is an organization that I'm very proud of and proud to be a part of, and just looking forward to what's to come with these kids that we're working with currently now. And also, Gino, I definitely need you to be in the looks. Trenton, I need y'all to meet for sure. But Gino has an organization that he does where basically he gets kids looks that are not, I guess you could say, I don't want to say heavily recruited, but maybe overlooked by, different programs or whatever. I know our kids are not there yet, but this is a great card for us to have in our pocket. And Gino is doing phenomenal work. And also, he just joined the BS3 network, and we're more than happy to have him. And what a great guy. And I look forward for you guys meeting. Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And guys, just all the viewers out there. So Justin is coaching, and he's able to get his sons in there as well, some, but the ages aren't exact. So Justin's in there helping a lot with, kids that aren't the same age as his kids necessarily. And so, man, that's just awesome to see. Like, obviously, part of the main reason I initially got into it is my own kids, but then seeing you, Justin, doing it when it's not necessarily your kids, or at least different ages. Sometimes it's your kids' ages, sometimes not. And obviously, you're coaching your kids too. But it's just cool. Like, the coaching connection is big, that world. And if you're not in it, you don't really understand, like, how can you enjoy? There must be something wrong with you to want to coach these little kids or something,
Right.
But there's not. It's just a ton of fun. And you see their character grow. We've already seen that in DBC. I mean, some of the kids that they just weren't there basketball wise. And that, having a little more basketball training builds them the self-confidence. And then all of a sudden you see them like step out there and shoot a 3-point shot that they would have been terrified to shoot, at the beginning of the year. And it's really more about their personality developing when you see that happening. I mean, it's some of our big guys too. It's just really cool to see. So I think that's the biggest to me, is just getting out there. You got to do something with your time, and obviously some people, you're working your butt off just enough to get by. But if you have a little extra time, it is a good way to get out into the community, and kind of forces you out. Once you've committed to doing it, kind of forces you out there, even when you don't feel like it. So it's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. And I wanted you to elaborate on how did you come up with this organization, DBC?
Yeah, it's funny. I all my kids, we live in Sunnyvale now. A few years living there now, and they have kind of their own organization and stuff that all the kids play sports through, and that's cool. I mean, it's really good. But what I kept seeing more and more is some of the kids that were a little bit stronger players. They can get held back a little bit when it's only the people right there at your school that you're playing with. I mean, we saw that with us growing up. You didn't have to look too far for good players in Garland in those days, but you definitely couldn't take just, one group of kids from one middle school is not going to be a competitive enough team to compete in year-round basketball. I mean, you can certainly compete, obviously, at the rec level. You can certainly compete in winter basketball. But if you really want it to be an organization where kids can invest in for the long haul, throughout the year, and it doesn't necessarily mean 12 months out of the year, but throughout most of the year, and really get something out of it, you do have to have a little bit more competitive group. So that's kind of, I was looking at my kids, my own personal kids, and a couple other kids in that community, and like, look, we've got all these friends in Rowlett, Garland, right here, Mesquite, it doesn't make sense for everybody to play their own thing and never, not have a strong enough team to go out there and compete in a tournament or to compete in, the more competitive leagues and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't really know if I would have enough interest, enough players, but I knew I had Dominique. And I knew, his son, DJ, is a good player. And I could tell he's one of those guys that's just going to get better and better and better. So I was like, man, put him in there. Let's throw something together, see what we've got. And pretty quickly, rather than just having a 5th grade, we ended up with a 4th grade and a 6th grade. And I've got people asking all the time if we can do 3rd grade, that kind of stuff. And so for me, I don't want to do it unless we can put a competitive product out there. Part of it's just like that's what I do enjoy coaching, but it's also not elite. We don't need elite kids, that are already traveling around doing all this stuff. These are kids that are good athletes, but that don't necessarily have another competitive place to play, or in some cases maybe couldn't afford to do so. And they're able to come in here, and if they're willing to work and their parents are committed to it, I mean, that's a big part of it is parental involvement too. You gotta at that young age, at least, you need parents pushing their kids some to practice and that kind of stuff. And when we have that, man, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see them all come together. So, and we ended up, we had a partnership through a church and through my law firm, where the kids are able to practice. Of course, gym time is very expensive. Kids are able to practice free at Freeman Heights Baptist Church in Garland, and that's been a huge blessing. And then also we, the kids are able to get out there and they're able to compete without too many cost constraints and that kind of stuff. So, it's been a lot of fun. But it's the kids really that have put in more than I anticipated, to where we end up with 3 teams that are all really good teams. It's not, they're not the literal best team in Dallas or anything like that yet. Don't know that we would ever get to that level, but maybe. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with some of these kids, the effort that they're putting in. So,
I mean, if you just to piggyback off what you're saying, if you look at a kid like I don't want to use Beckett. What's the 6th grade guy? Redhead.
Yeah, Chase. Yeah.
Prime example. I mean, used to always get down on himself, but now you see his confidence is growing. You're seeing him compete at a higher level than, honestly, even what I expected out of him. And it's just that notion of, like you said, the kid willing to work and willing to put forth the effort. I'm totally fine with, going wherever. Now, Dominique. Yep. Let us know, like, how did you get involved and what made you want to get involved?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to coach basketball. Mm-hmm. I just didn't have any support behind me, or I didn't know where to go, how to get a gym. So once Trent called me, and he was like, man, I got this team. Bring DJ out, see how you like it. So that's all I needed. I mean, as long as I have you guys helping me out, I know Trent he's a little more low on the team as I am. I think we can be the best team around. We just gotta find a way to get the kids more up on themselves. I mean, it's at this age it's kind of hard, but I mean you can see as the other teams we play that, I mean, of course, a lot of our kids play other sports, so they don't get to play as much as they do. But from what we have, they looking pretty good, and that's what keeps me motivated, keeps me wanting to keep going out to practice and show them some of the things that helped me become as good of a player as I was. So I'm giving them all the information I can. I'm YouTubing, Facebooking, everything. Whatever I bring to practice, I'm getting it from different coaches around the world.
So are you saying if the kids were sorry, you wouldn't be there?
No. Well, I mean, DJ played baseball since he was 5, and my family's like, so you play basketball and you never put him in basketball. So my thing was I didn't want to push him into it. Now, if he decided, well, I like basketball, I want to play a little bit more, and that's kind of what happened.
Right.
So now that he's understanding the game and now he's making more friends, basketball's coming a little bit more important to him right now. So, I mean, the kids suck. It's up to the coaches to find a way to make them better. We have a bunch of kids in fourth grade that never played basketball.
Right. And that's
exactly right, man.
And that's the funny thing, man. I hear that all the time, and I get asked that as well. Like, what are your thoughts, or what do you take away as far as when you're coaching your own child? Do you find yourself, okay, let me reel it back in? Because I'm with you, Dom. Like, I didn't want Jeremiah or Justice to necessarily play basketball because I did it. I wanted them to naturally, just like Trenton said, it was a natural thing. He thought his kids were going to play soccer. And it just so happened, well, this is what you got on the TV, or this is what I know you for. This is what I want to do. And, I'll never forget, like, Jeremiah was probably maybe 3 or 4, like barely walking, and my mom was just on me about, you need to put that boy in basketball. I'm like, your boy can't even talk that good. What are you talking about? It's that type of stuff. And I notice now, even with Justice, he's 4, but he's playing at the Rowlett Rec Center. And it's funny that these parents are like, wow, he's only 4. He's so far advanced. He knows how to dribble with one hand. Like, yeah, well, he had a ball, since he was born. And not only that, but I work on wanting to teach the kids to play the game the right way. Because if you ever played in these rec leagues, you'll see, man, they just grab the ball, especially at his age. These kids are just grabbing the ball, running. And I'm like, well, that's not, you're not doing anything. You're not teaching them anything. At that point, you just got them out there. And I get it. You want to keep your kids active and keep them off of the TV, video games, and gadgets, but teaching them the correct way. And I really, that's one thing that I admire about you two, is that you don't hold back any punches, regardless if it's your kid or not. You're teaching them all the correct way as far as, look, you're going to half-ass it out here, you're going to get half-ass results in the game. And that does carry over, and it shows. And the example that I give, especially with our younger teams, like 4th and 5th grade, you see them working at practice. You see guys like Pee Wee, where you're like, wow, he's coming a long way. Even for DJ, it's like DJ making real big strides, and it's rewarding to see that. But at the same time, I always felt like, with other parents would ask me that, like, how does that, like, how are you able to do that? How are you comfortably able to be daddy at home, but at practice, your coach, and then transition that into your kid's life?
Yeah, I mean, you got to find a way to separate that. I mean, I tell DJ, just like, because I coach him in baseball too, you have to know that on the field, there's a difference. I mean, I'm coach and I'm not dad, because you don't want the other players, well, that's his dad and he gonna
show
do whatever he can. Yeah, and I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I mean, as far as basketball go, I'm going to be hard on him, because that's the way we were coached.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's the same.
It's the
same way.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because I watched Trenton, and when he gets on,
I was going to bring that up.
I'm dying. I usually find myself like, let me just step back, get out the way, because it's not awkward to me, but it's just so like, wow, I'm having flashbacks, because I remember how Dana was with us. Then when I watched Trenton getting on his kid.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good thing that we all coach together, because now we can sit back and, well, hey, yes, he yelled at you, but let me tell you why. It's because let him keep coaching, and I'm gonna talk to you on the bench so you can understand why.
And it is like the firstborn, like Theo, my oldest, is the toughest for me to coach, and Justin, like it's so helpful having y'all there, because I'm like, Theo, I pull him out of the game, but I'm like, just go talk to coach down there, because it's like, I mean, not like I'm going to cuss him out or anything, but I'm like too frustrated. I wouldn't be as frustrated, at someone else's kid. And so it is like holding them to that high standard, because how they've been coached their whole life. So you should have a little higher standard in some cases, perhaps, but it's also like you want to do your best to treat them the way that you treat the other kids, And in my case, I know that's like that's a positive for my own kid if I can just like hold him to that same standard, because I think we hold all the kids to pretty high standards. That's what I was going to say when you were saying that earlier, Justin. It's like, the leagues, but also parents and stuff like that. It is, I mean, it's just epidemic in the culture that we sometimes sell our kids short, like I promise you, your kid can, not in all cases, but your kid probably can sit down there and have a meal. He can sit at that restaurant without running all around, throwing everybody's plates all over. It's just like stuff like that. And in sports, we're able to do that a lot easier, and it helps to train the kid and help them grow into a man, because they love doing it. They love basketball's fun, because I've always said the advantage in basketball over a lot of other sports is it's almost as fun to practice it as to play it. Like other sports, it's a grind a lot of times in practice. Basketball, you're mostly playing basketball when you practice it. That is the best way to get good at basketball, is handling the basketball, shooting the basketball, really doing all those things. You don't have to sit and take 1,000 swings in a row like you do baseball. And so the result is, like, we can challenge kids a lot because they like what they're doing, and I think that just helps them get good at one thing in life, and that spills over into other things if you can challenge them, hold that high standard without crushing them. Obviously, you got to be realistic at their age, but it's like I just see that over and over. Kids taking off through sports, their self-confidence and stuff, especially that 4th, 5th, 6th grade age, where they need it the most.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And the funny thing is I just remember us playing, and I always look at it and I'm like, wow, Dana really did not have an assistant coach. And when he would pull us or he get on to us, it was more so your teammates lift you up. Everybody else that was on the bench was like, all right, don't worry about it, get the next play, but I could imagine you trying to do this by yourself, Trenton. I'm like, ooh, good luck, brother.
Yep.
That's
it's too hard. Yep. It's too hard.
Yeah.
There's too many games, and you'll end up with games at the same time and stuff. That's why I did it for a little while, but you end up not doing a great job at it. It's just you're too spread thin, and the practices, being able to combine them in a lot of ways like we do, because there's not that much difference between a 4th grader and a 6th grader in terms of skill. Often they can be in the same practice, and obviously we have 4th and 5th combined. We don't have 6th combined, but it's once they get to that age where they're doing some of the fundamentals, you can combine them, but then you need multiple coaches there. If you've got a couple ages there, you need multiple coaches, and we've done that. So far, I mean, that's the part that's way exceeded my expectations. I mean, I knew I'd be able to organize something, get some kind of team out there, but you guys helping, in many cases, I'm not there and stuff. It's just night and day compared to what I was trying to do before. So you're always better if you can multiply yourself, and like it's just other Garland Wildcats. That's all we need to do. Just get a whole group of us, and we have, obviously, for the viewers, we have a couple other players whose dad played with us as well. So all growing up. So it really is a pretty cool thing. See full circle. So many other people have moved on, live in, totally different cities, and we're able to kind of duplicate this, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So, Dom, I want to touch on, like you alluded to, DJ doing baseball. How does that transition, how do you feel like he's handling that transition, going from baseball and actually being competitive in basketball as well?
Well, I mean, he'll kind of was just now starting to get into baseball. So this will be his first time trying to juggle both. But I mean, it should be, with the team he's on right now, it should be pretty easy for him to get more basketball in. That way he can grow as a player. We're pretty much going to practice during the week. But I mean, it's one of those things where normally basketball is during the winter and baseball is off during the winter. Mm-hmm. But we kind of want to start playing tournaments, if that's right, Trent.
Yep.
So we kind of got to we'll see how it goes as far as him playing both. I mean, I'm gonna find a way to get him to these basketball games, and it takes work and time, but he wants to do it, so it's pretty much if he think he can handle it, we'll do it.
So Trenton, I want to ask you that: are your kids doing any other sports or just basketball right now?
I've got my little ones in soccer, but my older ones, they wanted to just focus on basketball this summer. They're all dying to play football, but we hadn't let them play football yet, So eventually they'll get in there, I'm sure. But as of right now, they just do that, and then they do some arts and stuff. But yeah, they're just focused on basketball right now. So.
Right. Now, let me ask you guys this, because I know for me personally, Jeremiah picked up golf and really is loving golf and doing very well, which I'm shocked and surprised. I ain't never played golf before in my life. So he brought me some clubs last weekend from his golf instructor. I'm like, all right, I don't get it. What is this? I'm thinking they're all the same. He's like, no, that's a wedge. I'm like, oh shit, you know the terminology of YouTube and golf stuff to like try to be able to engage with him. And he's telling me like, hey, let's go to Top Golf. I'm like, shit, man, hold on. Like I don't want to look bad in front of my kid. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like, but it's just
a tough sport to pick up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the fact of, I know Trenton, you grew up playing baseball as well, also a little bit of football too. So just knowing like my vision for my youngest is I want you to play everything under the sun and don't choose anything until it comes that time, which is usually around, maybe sophomore, junior year of high school. And I know me and Dominique can touch on that as well. If you were at South Garland, you only played one sport.
Yeah.
You didn't have, it wasn't, oh, I'm going out for football. It was, you doing basketball, you do basketball.
Right.
But I know you can touch on that. When did you make that decision of, okay, no baseball, no football, I just want to focus on basketball?
Yeah, it really was what they like the most, So like my little ones, for whatever reason, they're really good at soccer, like it. And of course that's the secret that people, you just touched on with Jeremiah playing golf. Kids, no surprise, kids like doing the sport that they're best at, Like, hey, that's all human beings. Whatever you pick up and you're like, I'm actually pretty good at this. And, suddenly that's your favorite thing to do. It's not a coincidence, And so, my kids, partially because there's so many of them, I mean, they're in the backyard playing basketball all the time. And it's just one of those things where, I had an older brother. So as a result, I was kind of good at basketball at an early age because I had to play against him, And so they all really took off in the sport because, I played with them some, of course, but then they played with each other a whole lot. And so, they like all the sports. They've played baseball, but I hear them complain about the practice, going to practice for this, going to practice for that. And just over time, I'm like, man, like simplification is a little better for our family, given the family size and everything. So it didn't take any arm twisting. It was really just this spring is the first season where they're going to play basketball only, when basketball, is a winter sport, supposedly, but they're going to play basketball only. They were playing soccer or baseball, before that. But it is, I mean, it's what they enjoyed. It's listening to them, also seeing what they're good at, because it does matter for their long-term enjoyment, what they're good at. And then also just what you can do in terms of driving and that kind of stuff. And you've seen, I mean, I can combine kids in basketball that I really can't do in baseball. Part of it's just because they're better basketball players than they are baseball players. So I got my fourth grader. You've seen him play up there in sixth grade. Obviously, my Jeremiah, fifth grader, plays with sixth grade as well. And they're fine out there, But if they did that in baseball, I'd be in trouble. I'd have to have all separate activities. So So it was kind of it's a combination of that family choice, as well as this is what you like and what you're doing anyway, So it's that's cool to see that I didn't have to twist their arm, but I'm kind of glad that they're at this point focused on basketball. But I'm a big advocate of multiple sports. I mean, I love if you can play all 5 sports as a varsity athlete, all that stuff like you hear people doing, do it. But it is tough on a parent early, or especially those younger ages, driving them all around, chauffeuring them.
Trenton got a Bo Jackson camp going on.
Yeah, that's right. I did technically play 3 varsity sports, but it was basketball, cross country, and track. So
Yeah,
I don't know if those count as full out sports. But so I don't know. I don't know if they'll pick up football eventually, that kind of stuff. But we'll see.
Dominique,
What you got, man?
I wanted to know, how was it for you? When did you know that you personally, that basketball was your sport, sticking with it?
Man, I'm from Louisiana. First thing that was given to me was a basketball. I really didn't know any other sport until I moved to Texas. Of course, you're gonna pick up football living out here. But yeah, that's all I did. Basketball. I mean, I tried a couple other sports just to be with friends, but at the end of the day, basketball. And now it's surprising that my kids, I have a daughter also, she's playing softball. She does basketball a little bit, but it's a little surprising that they picked up a different sport that now that I look at it, I wish I had somebody that can, hey, this sport's fun. You're tall enough to play football. Why don't you do that? But, I mean, once you become good at something, then everybody start funneling you to that one sport. So,
Right. Yeah, and the strange thing is I just had Jamar over this past weekend, and we were watching, the games or whatever.
yeah.
And we were sitting down and we were talking, and I also was talking to Marcus Applewhite that went to South with us, and both of those guys were Division I football players, and talking with them about football and what they envision for their kids and what they see coming. It's so strange to me. Like Marcus was saying, he didn't want his son having any type of contact football till maybe 8th grade. And I'm like, well, isn't that a little late? And he was like, no, just think about it. Give them the fundamentals early and as often as you possibly can, and then let them blossom into the contact. Because you really, but in my opinion, I guess I'm old school. Once you get that first initial hit, that lets you know if you want to play football. That first initial hit usually came around 4th, 5th grade when you get passed on and you got a kid just running with his head down and sticks you. Then you're like, okay, this is for real. But it's very strange to me that here it is, 2, Division I and guys that I know personally, and that guys that you know as well, that are telling us like, football, yeah, that's cool. It's a great game. I love it, but I won't let my kids have that type of contact. Not at this age.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of kids have been getting hurt, so they're kind of thinking, well, if he can wait till he's older, learn how to tackle the right way, which is the biggest problem for that young group.
Absolutely. Now I got another question for y'all, and this is gonna be a sensitive topic for us because we all played AAU ball together. But I was at the barbershop, by the way. Nice haircut.
Nice.
Yeah, I like my beard though.
Already.
But I was at the barbershop, and it's so strange. I was talking to this kid that just graduated high school like 2014. And it's funny that I'm calling him a kid because I'm like, man, it feels so old, like.
Right.
But anywho, he went to Wiley High, and we were having the conversation about AAU basketball, and he was his point of view on it is it's bad for high school. It's bad for kids in general. It's bad for young athletes. And I asked him, why do you feel so strongly about that? He's like, most of these kids now, they playing AAU ball, they really have no need to play for their high school. And I'm like, well, I don't find that to be true. Most of the kids I know play AAU ball take pride in playing for their high school, especially coming from communities that we're from, where it's like you want to compete against your other friend. You want to have that bragging right that, yeah, we smashed y'all in high school. But it was so strange, and I wanted to get you guys' take on that. What are your thoughts on AAU, and what are your thoughts on kids, and what age should they be traveling to play basketball?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, first off, we're lucky, in my mind at least, we're lucky to live in DFW. There's so many great players and tournaments in this area that it really is a while before you feel like you've got to travel anywhere. I mean, they're all right here. Now, that being said, yeah, high school and stuff, certainly. And it can be a fun trip to take the kids earlier than that. Like, I think that would be a lot of fun to do. But it's not a necessity, so that part's true. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see that. I know there's a lot of negativity on AAU. Different people that have had different experiences. I kind of equate it to church as well. You'll have a lot of people who had negative experience in a church. Well, I get it. That's because they're everywhere. Same with AAU. It is. There's a lot of teams out there. I mean, there's a lot of bad ones and a lot of ones that take advantage of kids. And I mean, not even talking anything serious. Just put out a product so that they can get a payment from whoever out there. Who knows how all that works. But there's certainly that kind of stuff. So I get it from that perspective. But I think, and I also get it from like the kind of me culture, that we live in, which AAU can build up a kid, their ego beyond what is really appropriate, for a 14, 15, 16-year-old. And suddenly he's got millions of followers. Like I follow Mikey, in California, great basketball player. He's got like 3 or 4 million followers, but hey, he dunks on people online, so I like seeing it. I'm not gonna lie, but it is funny that those guys, they're superstars at a way too early age in a lot of ways. But that's more of a byproduct of the culture, not the cause. I don't think the negative aspects of AAU are driving this. I think that they result because of our culture and the way that we're focused on ourselves and the way we'll build people up and then destroy them. That's just America in a lot of ways, sadly. And so, yeah, I get it. I get the criticism, but I don't think it really applies across the board at all. And I do think that most of those kids really want to play for the high school and do really well. But you will see, I mean, you're seeing more of those kids that are like opting out and they go to almost like a fake school, really, because their AAU team is more important. And so they're really year-round basketball students. It's like a basketball academy as opposed to a real school. That does exist. So I don't know. I mean, I hear the criticism, but also I just don't think it applies as widely as some people like to make that.
But you have that overseas. You have some, like me and Melissa, we love going over to Dominican Republic. And every time that we've been, we always see those kids in there on that baseball diamond. Never fails.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Shouldn't y'all be in class? No, we on the baseball field. And not only that, but I know some guys that, actually just went over there just to train kids. And they have their secondary, I guess you can call it like a secondary income, just training kids in Dominican Republic. And these are guys that never played baseball before in their life, but they just basically just run these kids like, hey, we're going to do cone drills. Like, what the hell that got to do with baseball? But, I mean, to each his own, but I don't really see it. And I'm with you, Trenton. I felt that way at the barbershop, and I didn't tell the kid this, but I'm thinking to myself, you must have been one of those kids that got sold the hype dream and taken advantage of, or
Mm-hmm.
your career didn't go as far as you wanted it to, or you probably just wasn't that good to actually play. Because everybody that I knew that played AAU ball, no matter what their talent level was, they all played for their prospective high schools. Now you get the kids that may be the one-on-ones, like a Carmelo or something, that transfers from his public high school. Now he's at Oak Hill, but that's far and few between. But what I've been noticing, most kids, like you said, they want to play for their high school. And his argument, another part of his argument was playing 5 or 6 games a day. I'm like, shit, I grew up playing in the rec center. That's what we did all day. We look forward to that. You got the gym open at 8 o'clock. You were there at 8 o'clock, and you're not leaving until probably 6 or 7. And then you may sneak back up to get some more shots up to the gym closing at 10 o'clock. So I didn't understand that concept. And even later in life, when we got in high school, I mean, those open runs at South Garland,
legendary.
Exactly. You talk about competitive games. I saw kids coming from all the high schools in Garland. Then you get the Bryan Adams kids, Bishop Lynch kids, Lake Highlands kids, everybody coming to South Garland gym. And it was, don't lose because you ain't getting on the court. Get on the side court and get some shots up. You ain't playing. Then it got so big where they opened both gyms up. So for me, I don't understand that. When I look at it and, you know, what's going on in the news now, well, for the sports world, the basketball world, is the talk of like a kid like Zion Williams. Like, is the AAU basketball catching up to him? I'm like, no, he's in New Orleans. There's nothing but bad food there. He doesn't.
Calm down.
I'm just saying. Them beignets and them all that stuff is catching up to him now. So it's like
good food that's bad for you. I get you.
There you go. So I mean, you can only eat so many king cakes until you just go. So it's just hilarious to me because it's the media portraying and painting this narrative of, oh, it's catching up to him. He played too many games as a youth. And it's like, dude, he's 20 years old. Like, let him figure it out. But he'll be fine. But don't put that on, you know, AAU ball that he can't get healthy.
Yeah, and Zion's, I was just going to say, Zion's such an unusual athlete that maybe you could make the case that without all the AAU ball, he might still be a professional athlete. But the vast majority of NBA players, as athletic as they are, they're incredibly skilled, and it's because they played such an excessive amount. You know, you take a Devin Booker, somebody like that guy's not any kind of professional athlete if he's not in the gym as much as he was, you know, and the league is, even guys that are 6'7", 6'8", that applies to them too. Like, they would just be a really tall guy out in society if they hadn't played, you know, all those hours of AAU basketball. So there's very few of those guys that would be there without it. So it's almost irrelevant in a lot of ways because they, even if Zion, you know, did have too much wear and tear on his knees, that just isn't usually the case with most of those players, and most of them couldn't have gotten there without all that extra time, all those tournaments, all those Nike tournaments, and even, you know, that are the upper echelon, you know, teams doing that. So,
Dominique, I want your opinion and thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just think with as far as the high school and AAU go, it's just back when we played, the gyms were packed every game we played. So now, a couple of games that I've been to, it's like, where's everybody at? Man, this is a high school game. You're supposed to be out supporting your team. It don't matter how bad they are. It's your high school.
Right.
Now, the AAU, kids play AAU because that's where the scouts are going. That's where all the top athletes going to be. That's the only difference. They rarely go to a high school game now because they're going to get more kids at the AAU game than they can look at the high school game. But I just think, I mean, you got to be able to. So what if you think this kid doesn't like playing for his high school? He's still there. I mean, if he didn't like it, he wouldn't be there.
Right.
I mean, it's just AAU is just you're gonna get better competition. It's gonna be better for you in the long run.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna have 5 studs at one high school. That's not how it works.
And it's just hilarious because the argument of, oh, that's so bad for a kid playing 5 games in one day. I'm like,
Right.
I ain't never heard no shit like that before in my
Never.
life. And not only that, but
That means
I mean,
you're
think
losing
about it.
already.
When we were younger, like you'll be on concrete playing all
Yeah.
day, no problem, and you know how bad that is for you now. But you never heard of, I could imagine one of us going to the league at like 19, 20 years old. I don't see any one of us being there complaining about, I played too much AAU ball.
Right.
Especially with that amount of money. I don't see it. In the endorsement alone, him being a Jordan brand player, it's like, dude, I would rethink that if I'm MJ. Like, yeah, this ain't gonna work, dog. Sorry. Let me go focus on Luka. At least he putting up buckets.
Yeah. Well, and in terms of injuries, like, man, if I don't know about y'all's kids, but if my kids aren't playing basketball, they're like at home playing tackle football in the backyard or something like that, or wrestling in the garage or something. Like these, like boys don't just do nothing with their bodies when they're not on the basketball court. So it really doesn't make sense to say putting them out there more is going to tear up their bodies more because they're just going to be doing something else in place of that. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's what they should be doing. So. Yeah, I think it is a little silly. Just looking for a complaint in a lot of ways. I do get it to some degree. If I had a complaint about AAU, it would be some of those big time teams that the very most elite players go to in the last couple years of high school. Sometimes that leads to less competitive games, and I do think some of that causes less defense and stuff that we see in the NBA today. Like that would be my only complaint about it, but it also causes the incredible offense that we see and these guys hitting 3-point shots from the 28-foot line, and beyond. Like that is also the cause of that. So, that's a kind of different argument, I think. And defense has gone down a little bit in the league, I think. Although the offense has gone up so much that it's honestly hard to say if that's for sure the case or not.
Yeah, I honestly think it's just the offense going up because I was reading that article. Dennis Rodman did an interview. Out of all people, Dennis Rodman, right? And he's saying like, "Oh, I can lock down LeBron." I'm like, "What the hell?" He's like, "He got one move. He's just going downhill." I'm like, "Okay." Dennis Rodman, all 6'8". When he was playing 6'8", maybe 215 against a LeBron at 6'8", 260. You telling me you can lock him down? Like, I don't see that happening. And I have that argument more so with older guys than not when they're like, oh, this basketball, these players so weak. And I'm like, it's not the players, it's the rules of the game have changed. So when you have a guy like Dirk that's 7 foot that can step out and shoot you out the gym, you gotta learn that, okay, I need a finesse guy to guard him. Because you're not gonna be able to put a bruiser on a guy like that and get away with it.
Yep. And just like we tell the kids, it's impossible to guard a great player one-on-one and not get beat, Well, the problem is all these guys now, that applies to all 5 guys on the court when you're talking the NBA just about. And that used to not be the case. It was like you had your guy who could shoot over here, you had your strong guy over here, you had your big guy here, you had your point guard here, and it's like, man, now it's almost impossible to guard those guys and go, and you have to guard them 30 feet from the basket or they're going to shoot it from there. So it's real tough. It's real tough to play defense. I can't imagine doing it at that level. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it was just hilarious because I always get in these arguments with like older cats that are like, I remember Shaq would have killed this guy. I'm like, okay, yeah, probably backing him up and turn around just dunking the ball. Right. But if a guy pulled Shaq out, but Shaq was very athletic. But later on in his career, no, man, that's like saying Shaq, go guard KD. Like people forget KD's 6'10". So imagine Shaq trying to stay in front of him. It's not gonna happen.
No.
But the game always evolves, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you look at guys in the league now, like your traditional big man, or you look at guys like Chris Paul, that is honestly, in my opinion, the last traditional point guard.
Right.
And you really say, okay, where is the game headed? And even when Kobe was playing, you look at when you started seeing the rise of Dwayne Wade and the rise of Brandon Roy, these other guys that were like, okay, Kobe, not only can we get our shots up, but we also understand on the defensive end how to pull you in to make you have to make a tough contested shot every time. And if it wasn't due to injury, yeah, Kobe's still, in my opinion, a close second to MJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that to me was just funny when the kid was like, "Oh, hey, you ball so bad." I'm like, "Dude, what? Like you?" Like I really wanted to say that. Like you must really have some shitty experience in Wiley, and not feel sorry for you. But he was just dead serious. Like nobody wants to play for the high school. I'm like, well, who the hell I knew play for Wiley? I don't know.
I mean, Wiley's not that old of a city.
Right? Yeah, that's why I was like, I mean, that wasn't even in our district. Honestly, before I moved out to Wiley, I didn't even know that. I didn't know shit about it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, like, I mean, unless his point is more subtle, like that the kids are less enthusiastic about playing at the high school, if that's all he means, or you do have that issue of like, you know, unfortunately this was not my dad, but like a AAU dad coach who's then in the stands, you know, kind of trying to coach the team a whole bunch, basically, because he's got kids on there. I get that a little bit, but I don't see anybody foregoing, you know, their high school team stuff, or just putting forth no effort because of that. You know,
what's the guy we play against at Addison? The black kid. What team? The Dynasty.
Oh yeah.
That guy will be that guy for real.
he's probably watching right now.
That's fine. I can't wait. But he's definitely that guy. I cannot stand. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be doing that on live, but I couldn't help it. I swear.
Yeah, you probably get that in every sport. I know in baseball, I mean, those dads, and most of the time it's the moms.
Which is weird.
Moms are.
Yeah, like how does that work out as far as baseball? I went to a few of, you know, Jordan's softball and DJ's baseball games, and man, that's intense. Like you gotta be truly, and I ask Melissa that all the time, like, okay, because she always complains, like, oh, it's Saturday, how many games you gotta go to? And I'm like, okay, remember we would go to Lane's and Dominique's and you would talk about how you wanted to do that?
Yeah.
Look, man, I do it with basketball.
Yeah, softball and baseball is a little different. I mean, the girls, they can play on a Saturday, they can play 4 or 5 games because there's no wear and tear on their arm like baseball.
Yeah.
So baseball, they can play, they'll do 2 games on Saturday and then you can probably play 4 games just to play in the championship game on Sunday.
Wow.
But I mean, it's tough, but you got to do it. And the parents, they're harder on the coach than the kids because everybody thinks their kid's the best one out there. And I mean, you got to tell them, you got to put in the work for your kid to play, especially in baseball, because that's something you have to work at. You just can't walk on there's probably a few kids that can walk on the field and hit a baseball, but you want to do it consistently.
I'm seeing that out there. I can't hit shit.
That's something you got to work. Even at slow pitch, you got to have your timing down right.
And that ball is too hard, man. They got to soften that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Somebody explained to me that the ball would come that fast, that hard in my glove, and it makes it feel hurt. Hell no.
Yeah.
Those softballs are hard to catch because it's such a massive ball, and those guys, man, they can hit that thing. They hit it like a golf ball. They want like it low and just drive it. You gotta, man, that will mess up your hand catching that thing.
Lane, we know you trying to say something funny, but you be quick. Now, last question that I want to ask you guys before I let you go. Dominique, you brought up a good point as far as, the parents being involved, and every parent feel like their child is the best.
Yeah.
So, Trenton, you being the head of the organization, have you had to have those tough conversations, or have you had an instance where you just had to tell a parent, like, look, sorry?
Yeah, well, we did have a few kids that didn't make the team, that try out fourth, fifth, and sixth. Good kids, just they need a few years of rec ball, or at least a season or two. Um, Although we were fortunate enough to kind of keep some of those kids practicing and stuff with us to a degree. But that is tough. It's tough to tell them, like, yeah, not right now. Like, I don't want your kid on the team and then me put him on the bench all the time, anytime the game's within reach, and so that's what's better. It's, to me, it's an easy conversation overall, because it's what's better. It's objectively better for the kid. You want to be playing at the level that you should be playing at. Maybe I've just gotten lucky. I have not had, like, the irate parents, that think their kids should be playing way more, that kind of stuff. I think I used to teach public school too. I think I kind of give off a little bit of the vibe, like, look, you can complain, but it's not going to do anything. Like, which is true. I would in no way like, I wouldn't be angry about it, but you can come up and cuss me out about your kid not playing, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, sorry, see you later, have a good day. And I think that's, some people cannot do that, and that's, I mean, I run a law firm. I have to do that, there. And so I do think that's part of it. People don't feel that it would be helpful to complain. But we have a good group of kids. I mean, across the board, at least since we've started DBC, the kids are so good, and for the most part, pretty comparable in ability, that it hasn't been an issue. And I think all the parents have seen those kids grow a lot, so we don't have many of those parents who have, shopped around for multiple teams and then ended up on our team. This is more organic. These are kids in our community, things like that. And I think as a result, we haven't had as many issues, but there's no doubt, do this long enough and we'll have those issues. I'm certain. So ask me in another year here.
The funny thing, Trenton, I just got a text message. Somebody said, is his power going off over there?
You know what it is? It's so poorly lit in this room. It's just, I have a computer screen in front of me, and every time it goes, like, it suspends after like 1 minute, I look all dark and stuff. So I have to, like, press a button occasionally to keep it going. No, my power's okay for now. Thank you.
Yeah, my power's okay, and this light bill is paid, y'all. Don't worry.
I think
the biggest thing is, as far as the parents go, they have to understand, if you want your kid to play, you have to also put in the work too. I mean, you can't just bring them out to practice and say, well, this is your practice for the week. I mean, what else are they doing outside of we have to yell at DJ to stop dribbling the ball in the house. That's the most simplest thing that you can do, is just dribble all day. Right. And you can tell from, like, a kid like Beckett, when he first came onto the scene, that kid didn't know what he was doing on the basketball court.
Absolutely.
And now, I don't know. I know it has a little bit to do with Justin when he's there, and then he must be doing something outside of practice, because now he's probably the second best player on the team.
The fact that you get a kid like that actually listens and applies it, that's the number one thing. You can have coaching all day, or I love the fact that Trenton, after the game, some of the parents will walk up to you and engage with you, have conversations with you, like tough loss or tough win, or just seeing, like, where is your head at, and what is it that my kid can do in order to get better? I mean, I know for a fact, for me, growing up, it was, my circle was just full of athletes. I mean, I had Antoine, Adrian, Mike, Dunn, just a bunch of guys that we all got together. We walked up to the gym together. We walk home, eat, or even when Garland had the free lunch program, we'll eat at the gym. And that sounds cold as hell, but you didn't have to walk all the way home. So you ate at the gym and you got right back in it. And it's those type of environments and those type of memories that, I want my kids to have that experience, but not certain experiences, no. But the fact that, like you said, DJ, you got to tell them, stop dribbling the ball in the house. Man, you know how many times I broke my mama vase and turned it when she couldn't see the broken part? You're like, nah, everything fine, nothing broken. But that's where it's at. And, like you said, Trenton, with you having a large amount of kids, it's easy for them to go in the backyard, entertain themselves. You don't have to necessarily say, okay, walk to a gym. You guys, there's 7 of you, compete. There you go. Here you go. Or even with DJ, Jordan's older and she's taller, so him competing with her, in all actuality, it's not going to do anything but get him better, get him more prepared for when he's playing guys his age.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, man. Yeah, you don't see as much of that, like kids being able to walk somewhere, but it's, we need more of that too. But there's ways around it and stuff. And you're right. Yeah, there's negative things about those days too. I'm always asking my kids, I was like, man, so there are a lot of bullies at y'all's school? They're like, no, man, nobody bullies anybody. I'm like, what? Is this America? But it's funny.
They go to school with Sunnyvale.
That's a big difference. Yep, it is.
Ain't nobody gonna mess with Little Shepherd anyway.
Yeah, and there's so many of them, too. That I'm like, y'all probably don't even see it. But I'm always like, but are you guys the bullies? If you're not getting bullied, that means you are the bully. But they say no. They swear no, that's not true. So
you better check, Shep. I'll check the backpack. Come here, young man. Let me see what's in the backpack.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Elaine's comment. She says Hannah has her phone light over. Oh, man. Nah, guys, but I appreciate you guys for coming on, man. We've been on for over an hour, but I want to go ahead and wrap it up, give you guys some time back. Any final thoughts, anything you want to say? Let's start with Dominique. The floor is yours, sir.
Hey, as far as basketball go, I don't know who's listening out there, but I mean, right now, I don't know. Texas is really starting to catch up football-wise as far as kids playing basketball more, and a lot of more kids are getting recruited out of Texas as far as basketball goes. So I know there's baseball, football, and somewhat hockey, but basketball right now is where it's at, and if you ain't in it, you better get in it soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're exactly right. Basketball, because of people starting their kids later, especially in football, basketball is big. And the thing is, it only complements football because, I mean, we know a lot of kids growing up that only played football back in Texas in those days, but it's like, man, you get the footwork from basketball or soccer. I mean, I think same kind of thing. You're a lot better off at pretty much every position in football. So I think it's a great way to get out there, get a physical sport in, get challenged, get that toughness, and then football is a fall sport. So boom, you can play both for a very long time. And I get it, some high school coaches may try to get you to choose, but certainly until then, you should be playing both if you're playing football. So, yeah, we need some of those. We need a big guy or two. So there you go. So we could use some big football player right now listening that hasn't played that much basketball. So like a Big Herm back in our day when growing up, man, we played against Big Herm. Man, that kid was a monster,
that kid hurt. And I'm sorry, wherever you are in the world, young man, hey, ain't no way you were our age. There's no way you were.
I'm pretty sure he was. I'm pretty sure he played in the NFL too. You got to ask Jamar. Jamar knew where he ended up.
He was at Lake Highlands. I remember seeing him at Lake Highlands. And I was like, please don't tell me he's stepping on this damn court. This is not be pretty. This dude hurt.
Yeah.
And I remember your dad used to always yell at me, get in front of him. I'm like, hell no. I'm not gonna get. I mean, you think about it. He had to be at least like two something back then. And I was
in like, 7th grade, he had to be 250, 6 foot, man. Yeah.
I was all but like a $185, maybe if that. Yeah. Like, man, this kid was just a monster. Yeah, I know Jamar was telling me him and his cousin, they both went to Lake Highlands, and I know he ended up going. I want to say he went to UT for football, but that man, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, he was a monster.
If we can find a kid like that, though,
I know one. He's in the 4th grade.
Hey, man, you need to find out what he been fed. We can get a water bill or something. We need all of that. Come on.
Yeah.
Dominique, we'll let you have your final word. Well, you already gave your final word, right?
Right.
All righty. Well, with that, man,
thanks,
I appreciate it, guys. Once again, thank you for joining. And once again, to our audience, thank you for joining us on another episode of Elevate, where we look to elevate, reach out, uplift, inspire, and just show positivity and give out love. So we appreciate you guys so much for viewing. Once again, thanks to my brother Dominique and my brother Trenton. I look forward once this ice is all off the road. Hopefully we can see each other Saturday for the games. And man, let's make it a good one.
We gotta do this again, man.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. So with that, guys, we're out, and we'll holler at you later.
All right.
Y'all have a good one. Bye.